Welcome back to the Deep South Experiment podcast. This is episode 10 of our Strength versus Hypertrophy series, and today we're diving in to quite a fascinating subject, and that is how muscle capacity development helps you to build strength. If you've ever wondered how muscle growth can facilitate the kind of strength that you're after, this episode is going to answer that question for you. But before we get into it, ask yourself this. Why is it that some lifters can add plate after plate to their lifts, while others seem to plateau despite training really hard? Is this just about getting bigger muscles, or is there more to it? In this episode, we'll uncover how hypertrophy isn't just about looking bigger, it's about increasing your muscle's ability to generate force. We'll also explore the key link between muscle capacity and strength, something a lot of people tend to overlook. But first, let me ask you another question. Have you ever thought about why your muscles grow in the first place? Sure, we know progressive overload and volume are critical, but what exactly is happening inside the body when your muscles grow to support more strength? How does hypertrophy directly fuel your ability to push more weight in your lifts? So these are the questions that we'll unpack today, so stick around because we're going to take a deep dive into the science and practical examples that can help you break through your current limits. Let's start with a simple fact. Strength and hypertrophy, while closely related, are not exactly the same thing. You can have massive muscles, but not be the strongest person in the room. And you can be incredibly strong without having huge muscles. But what if I told you that hypertrophy, growing your muscles, can actually help you to increase your strength? Let's think about this from a muscle physiology perspective. Muscle capacity is essentially the muscle's ability to handle more load and generate more force. This is where hypertrophy comes in. When you train for hypertrophy, you're increasing the size of your muscle fibers, but you're also improving the capacity to store more energy and recruit more motor units. So what does that mean for strength? It means that your muscle fibers grow, they become more capable of producing force. But here's where it gets really quite interesting, because the type of hypertrophy that best supports strength development isn't just about getting bigger muscles. It's about getting smarter muscles. When you train for strength, you're not just looking for muscle growth. You're looking for muscle fibers that can sustain heavy loads that you're lifting and work together more efficiently. The more muscle fibers you have in play, the more strength potential you unlock. But it doesn't just stop there. Take, for instance, a bodybuilder's approach to training. They might focus on slow, controlled reps, maximizing time under tension in order to build muscle size. Now contrast that with a powerlifter, whose goal is to maximize load with minimal rest. While both are developing hypertrophy to an extent, their focuses differ. The bodybuilder is increasing muscle cross-sectional area and endurance, while the powerlifter is more focused on muscle recruitment, explosiveness, and overall force production. So if you're training for strength, how do you optimize muscle growth to make your muscles more capable of supporting maximum lifts? By focusing both on volume and intensity, you can increase your muscle's ability to generate power without sacrificing size. It's all about creating the balanced approach. So let me give you a practical example. Imagine you're trying to increase your deadlift. You're only focused on getting bigger muscles, so you might prioritize higher repetition training to stimulate hypertrophy. But if you don't train the specific movement patterns and motor unit recruitment needed for heavy lifts, you'll miss out on some strength benefits. On the other hand, if you focus solely on low rep, high weight training, your muscle fibers may become more efficient at handling heavier loads. But you might miss out on some of the benefits for hypertrophy that could help your muscles grow in both size and strength capacity. So, how do you find that sweet spot? For a combination of both, You need hypertrophy-focused training to stimulate muscle volume and density, and strength training to improve the neurological adaptations that allow you to lift heavier. Now let's talk about muscle fibers for a second. The most commonly discussed muscle fiber are type 1, slow twitch, and type 2, fast twitch. Type 2 fibers are the ones that you want to focus on for strength. These fibers generate force but fatigue faster. However, training them for hypertrophy by pushing them to handle more load and greater volume can lead to an increase in the capacity of those fibers to generate more force, which ultimately helps your strength. So what's the takeaway here? Well, if you're training for strength, you don't just want to focus on getting bigger. You want to train your muscles to handle more work over time, developing their capacity to help you lift more. Before we wrap things up, let me leave you with one thought. We've talked a lot about muscle capacity and how hypertrophy plays a role in strength development. But what happens when your muscle's ability to generate force is maximized? What happens when you've got all the muscle mass, muscle density, recruitment potential, but your technique still isn't up to par? That's where episode 11 in our series comes in, the relationship between strength and technique. What good is all that muscle capacity if your form is holding you back? Can better technique actually help you lift more, even without increasing muscle size? We're going to explore that next time. Make sure that you don't miss it. So thank you for tuning into the Deep South Experiment today. I hope you found this content valuable. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future content or more videos in this series. And I'll see you next time.